The class of 1999 vanished on their graduation trip. 2 years later, a chilling discovery resurfaces. They were 27 teenagers, full of dreams and rebellion, waving goodbye from a yellow school bus on a crisp Saturday morning in June 1999. They were never seen again. No phone calls, no bodies, just silence. Forest Grove, Oregon, June 5th, 1999. It was supposed to be a celebration, a rite of passage before the real world began. The senior class of Forest Grove High School had planned their graduation trip for months. The destination, a remote, secluded campground, deep within the Rogue River, Siskiyou National Forest. Far from parents' curfews and expectations, this was their moment of freedom. The bus left at 9:00 a.m. sharp. Footage from an old camcorder captured the students as they boarded, laughing, teasing, clinking soda cans. Mr. Harold Griggs, a substitute driver, filling in last minute, waved politely as parents filmed their final goodbyes. In total, 26 seniors and 2 faculty chaperones boarded bus Motor 57. They were never heard from again. That evening, when the bus failed to arrive at the campground, it was chalked up to a delay. By Sunday, panic set in. Helicopters searched. K-9 units scoured the forest. No tire tracks, no footprints. The campground host confirmed no bus ever showed up. By the end of June, with zero evidence, the case was quietly closed. Officially, 28 missing persons. Unofficially, a black hole that swallowed a generation. Over the years, conspiracy theories flourished. Some believed it was a mass runaway. Others spoke of a hidden road into the woods, or something darker lurking in the forest. A few families never gave up returning to those woods year after year. Most, however, mourned quietly and moved on. Forest Grove High School. Present day, 2021. The school is different now. New faces, new buildings, but the past lingers like mildew. Near the main entrance, a plaque bears the names of the missing seniors etched in bronze beneath the words, "Gone but never forgotten." Every June, 27 candles are lit in silence. Teachers look away. Students whisper. But everything changed on June 3rd, 2021. A seasoned hiker named Travis Milner was off trail in a rarely traveled corner of Rogue River, Siskiyou. As he pushed through dense underbrush, he spotted something yellow. Curious, he approached and froze. It was a school bus. Rusted, overgrown, nearly swallowed by the forest. Number 57, the door was jammed. Inside, time had stopped. Moldy backpacks still strapped to seats. Polaroids fused with mildew. A Walkman on the floor. In the back row, a human jawbone. When forensic teams arrived, they recovered 17 sets of human remains. Some skeletonized, some partially preserved. DNA matched them to the Forest Grove class of '99, but 9 students and both teachers were still missing. More disturbing was what they found beneath the driver's seat, a mold-eaten folder containing sketches signed Emily T., one of the missing girls. The drawings were disturbing ritual circles, masked figures, symbols, not belonging to any known language. One sketch showed the bus itself surrounded by towering faceless shapes, and in the driver's seat, a hooded figure in a mask. The case was reopened. The town Reacts Forest Grove exploded with emotion. Some families clung to hope, others recoiled in grief. The news became national, talk shows, podcasts, Reddit threads dissecting every sketch, every theory. Was it a cult, a mass psychosis, something supernatural? One father, Robert Vasquez, who had kept a journal of sightings and theories since his daughter disappeared, said only, "I told you it wasn't an accident. Something took them." Yet, the questions multiplied. Why did the bus vanish without a trace? How did it end up deep in the forest with no road leading to it? Who or what is depicted in Emily's sketches? And most chilling of all, where are the others? And then exactly 1 week later, a stranger walked into the Bend police station. Thin, dirty, trembling, his voice barely audible. "My name is Jared Fields. I was part of the class of '99. I was never supposed to come back. The mystery wasn't over. It had just begun. The fluorescent lights in the Bend police station buzzed faintly as dawn filtered through the blinds. It was a morning like any other until the front door swung open. The man who stepped inside looked like a ghost clawed out of the wilderness, gaunt, dirt-caked. His tattered jacket barely clung to his frail frame. His sunken eyes darted like prey sensing a trap. "I'm Jared Fields," he murmured, "from the class of '99. Silence. For a moment, not a single officer moved. The name hovered in the air like a whispered curse. Sergeant Emily Wells, a veteran of the force, stepped forward cautiously. "Mr. Fields, can you provide identification?" Jared didn't answer. His gaze swept toward the corners of the room, the ceiling, the exit. "I wasn't supposed to come back," he said. "They're still watching." Moments later, a forensic technician arrived, breathless, holding a folder. DNA results had come in. The fingerprints were a match. The man in front of them was without question Jared Fields, one of the 27 who had vanished 22 years ago. That afternoon, he was moved to a secure interview room. Under fluorescent glare, Jared sat hunched, fingers twitching against the tabletop eyes, locked to the two-way mirror, as if he expected it to shatter. It took hours of coaxing before he spoke, really spoke. It started the day the bus broke down. The group had traveled miles into the Rogue River Siskiyou forest when the engine coughed, sputtered, and died. Mr. Griggs, the substitute driver, tried the ignition. Nothing. No radio, no GPS. They were alone. And then came the strangers emerging from the tree line in silence. Clad in ash-colored robes, faces weathered by sun and time. They called themselves the Chosen. They said they were from a sanctuary, Jared said. That the world was ending. That we could be part of something new. The students, hungry, frightened, without signal or options, followed. At first the commune seemed safe. Quiet cabins nestled between ancient trees. Warm stew, clean clothes. Jared said it felt like stepping into a forgotten time. But something was off. They had rules, he whispered. No talking about the past. No names, just numbers. We had to sleep in rotating shifts. They tracked everything: who was awake, who was dreaming. The food grew strange, bland, heavy, numbing. Many began to experience vivid, lucid nightmares. And then the teachings changed, Jared said. They talked about surrender, about shedding who we were. They called it cleansing. Students who resisted began to disappear. A girl named Alyssa tried to run. Jared remembered the screams, inhuman, muffled, swallowed by the forest. Her bed was empty the next morning. They didn't punish, he said. They erased. Jared's voice trembled. They told us we were chosen, that the world outside had already ended. Only in the forest could we survive. But it wasn't survival. It was control. He leaned in close, voice low. They made sacrifices. He recounted a night when the commune gathered around a massive fire. Hooded figures carried something or someone into the flames. The others watched, hypnotized, drugged, or too afraid to move. They said the forest needed balance, that only those who accepted the new order could remain. By 2006, Jared had reached his breaking point. He faked obedience, memorized routes. And then one night he ran. 3 days of crawling through underbrush, hiding from drones he swore were scanning from above. He collapsed outside Grants Pass. After that he vanished into transient shelters, backwoods communities, and abandoned cabins. I thought if I stayed hidden they'd forget, he said. But when the bus was found, I knew they hadn't. He came forward not to clear his name, but because the others, he said, might still be alive. Or worse, still part of them. When asked about the remaining 9 students and 2 teachers, Jared looked down. Some joined willingly. Some didn't have a choice. He would say no more. Back in Forest Grove, word of Jared's return sparked wildfire debates. Some hailed him as a survivor. Others called him delusional, even dangerous. Grieving parents were split relief at closure, clashing with fury over the image he painted of their children. But the sketches found under the bus, the ones signed by Emily T., matched Jared's story: rituals, circles, masked watchers, and Emily, she was never found. What Jared revealed shook the foundation of everything the town thought it knew. But it wasn't just the past that haunted them. If Jared was right then, the chosen were still out there, and they weren't finished. The wind had picked up outside the Bend Police Department. It carried the faint scent of pine and ash, like the breath of the forest itself. Jared Fields sat in protective custody, staring at the wall, unmoving for hours. He hadn't slept. He refused to eat. When asked why his answer never changed, they see everything, especially when we stop pretending they don't. That morning, 3 investigators from the Oregon State Bureau of Investigation arrived to re-interview Jared. A forensic psychologist joined them, tasked with evaluating his mental state. What they encountered wasn't insanity. It was something else, something far more disturbing: clarity wrapped in dread. "They don't live in the forest," Jared began. "They are the forest now." He leaned forward, elbows on the metal table. "You think I escaped. I didn't. I was let go, and not because they forgot me, because they wanted a witness." The room fell silent. Jared pulled a folded page from his jacket. On it, a rough drawing in charcoal, an arc of hooded figures surrounding a tree whose trunk split into dozens of screaming mouths. At the base, a circle drawn in what looked like dried blood. One word was etched above the tree in shaky, frantic handwriting: ablation. "I don't know what it means," Jared said, "but they whispered it before each ritual. It was never shouted, just breathed." The psychologist asked him to describe what ritual meant. They believed the forest required balance, that every generation needed to offer something to maintain it, not people willingness. The ones who accepted it became part of the new order. The rest were consumed. They didn't kill them. Not like you think, Jared muttered. They broke them until they volunteered, until the forest accepted them. That's why you only found bones. The forest takes what resists. Jared looked up slowly, and it keeps the rest. Of all the missing students, one name echoed louder now: Emily Tran, the quiet artist. Her drawings were the only reason Jared's story wasn't immediately dismissed as delusion. And now investigators were combing through what remained of her sketchbooks, hoping for answers. Inside one mold-stained page, an illustration that hadn't made it to the original report caught their attention. A bus rendered in eerie, exact detail, encircled by a ring of faceless silhouettes. Above the vehicle, a canopy of trees shaped like watchful eyes. In the driver's seat, a mask identical to the one described by Jared. Beneath the image, a single sentence in shaky pencil: "The ones who whisper don't sleep." Experts struggled to explain how Emily, a shy 17-year-old with no record of mental illness, had produced imagery so complex, so predictive. One theory proposed mass psychosis. Another suggested Emily may have joined the chosen. But Jared was adamant. Emily was awake. She saw it before any of us. According to him, Emily was the first to question their captors. She sketched everything in secret hiding pages beneath her mattress. He believed she tried to document what was happening, to leave a trail, one the outside world might one day find. She wasn't afraid like the rest of us, he said. She was angry, focused. But one night I woke up and her bed was empty. No struggle, just gone. No trace of her has ever been found. In Forest Grove, the atmosphere was no longer one of solemn remembrance. It was fear, suspicion. Parents who once gathered for memorials now avoided each other in the supermarket aisles. Those who believed Jared clung to his every word. Others called him a manipulator, a madman seeking attention. Mayor Thomas Monroe, whose daughter Lacey was among the missing, issued a statement urging calm. But the veneer of civility was breaking. Old tensions resurfaced. Lawsuits were threatened. A podcast host was assaulted outside the school gate for claiming the town had worshipped its own silence. And then came the letter. Postmarked from Klamath Falls, but with no return address, it arrived at the home of Robert Vasquez. It contained a photograph, grainy black and white, dated 2007, in the background pine trees tense, and at the center a figure sitting cross-legged beside a campfire. It looked like Emily Tran, older, gaunt, but unmistakable. Written on the back, she chose us. They all did. It was unsigned. The photograph was authenticated. The paper matched early 2000s Kodak prints, and the pine resin on the envelope suggested it had been stored in cold, damp conditions for years before being mailed. On June 29, 2021, a multi-agency task force was deployed to the forest. Jared agreed to guide them under heavy protection and with a medic on standby. They followed no marked trail. Instead, Jared led them by memory, recalling strange tree formations, stone markers, and a creek with water that tasted like rust and static. For 3 days they searched, found remnants of tents long collapsed, charred stones, scraps of fabric bearing the forest grove crest, but no signs of life. Then 42 miles from the nearest road, they stumbled upon a clearing, a circle scorched into the earth. At its center, another bus wheel, half buried, melted. This wasn't the first bus, Jared whispered. They've done this before. He collapsed shortly after. The operation sparked national headlines. Survival cult theories dominated cable news. Experts on fringe psychology began appearing on morning shows. The FBI issued a statement that while Jared's claims were being taken seriously, no conclusive evidence of a functioning cult had yet been found. But online, the class of '99 became a symbol. TikTok creators posted creepy videos using Emily's sketches. Reddit conspiracy pages exploded with forest maps and breadcrumb theories. The line between truth and myth blurred. If Jared didn't escape, if he was released, then why now? Was it a warning or was it an invitation? And most chilling of all, was the forest finished, or was it simply waiting? July 2021. The search zone had officially been suspended. The task force pulled out. Official reports cited insufficient evidence of an active threat. But Jared Fields knew better, and so did Sergeant Emily Wells. She hadn't stopped thinking about the scorched clearing, about the melted bus wheel they found buried like an artifact from a war that never made headlines. Something was still out there, and it hadn't stopped watching. That night, Emily visited Jared in the hospital. He'd been recovering from exhaustion, but his mind hadn't quieted. He didn't sleep. He didn't blink when she entered. "I remember what it felt like," he said suddenly. "The first time I stepped into their circle. The way the air changed." She sat across from him, notebook in hand. It wasn't just a group. It was coordinated. A structure, roles, symbols. Like something ancient but adapted. Like it knew how to look normal until it didn't. Emily leaned in. "Do you remember what they called themselves?" He nodded. "The Forest Order, but only when we were ready to hear it. Before that, they said nothing, just watched." Across the country, strange signals had begun to appear in law enforcement chatter. Small rural towns reporting abandoned campsites. Local radio broadcasts hijacked by static and phrases in an unknown dialect. One deputy in Josephine County recorded a message that had interrupted a police scanner. It said, "We remember the chosen. The vessel has returned. Prepare the circle." The origin was untraceable. Emily had her team comb the FBI's archives. In a redacted 1986 document about Cold War-era cult activity, a phrase surfaced that made her stop breathing. Whisper protocol, a term used by early intelligence to describe cults operating in uncontacted zones, groups that recruited through isolation, broke identities down to nothing, and rebuilt subjects with engineered obedience. These cells were rare, often undetected until a body or survivor reappeared years later, incoherent and marked with symbols carved into skin. What the file never answered was how these groups operated without being seen, without leaving tracks, or why they all reference forests as sacred zones. In the margins of the document, a note, "Belief is the delivery system, but the signal is real." No further context. While this was happening, a team at a private university lab in Portland was restoring more of Emily Tran's damaged pages. Using multispectral light scans, they began to uncover sketches previously thought lost to mold. One showed a spiral drawn in thousands of faint lines, each made from repeated symbols. When overlaid digitally, it resembled a map, or perhaps a ritual calendar. Another depicted figures in suits, clear outlines of hazmat masks, breathing tanks standing above a kneeling crowd in robes. Beneath the image was a date, 10/10/1999. Emily had seen something, not just folklore, something structured, militarized even. The most chilling image came last, a self-portrait, unfinished, her face half sketch, half shadow. Around her neck a string of teeth. Above her head in reverse lettering, "I remember the fire." Sergeant Wells couldn't let it go. On August 2nd, she returned alone to the Rogue River Siskiyou Wilderness, bringing only a drone satellite GPS and Jared's hand-drawn map. 12 hours into the hike, the signal dropped. Not entirely a dead zone, but only in a perfect radius. No animals, no bugs. The air was still. She activated the drone and let it rise. What it recorded was later reviewed by 5 forensic analysts. The footage showed canopy cover dense and uniform, but at the 30-meter mark, the trees opened into a formation not natural, a spiral, trees bent inward. And at the center, something impossible, a circular structure made entirely of bone, human animal layered and sun-bleached. At its center, a rotted podium. On it, a symbol matching the one from Emily's earliest sketch, a three-eyed mask with a vertical line through the center. The drone feed cut out seconds later. When Emily returned, she was different, quiet, focused. She submitted her footage to the bureau, then requested leave. She didn't see something her lieutenant would later say. She understood something. In early September, 3 teenagers from Ashland went missing on a weekend trip to the forest. Same route, same timing. Their car was found parked neatly on the edge of a trail, keys on the dashboard. No signs of struggle. Within the next 2 weeks, 2 campers, a nature photographer and a forestry intern, also disappeared without any connection to each other. All vanished within 50 miles of the Bus 57 site. The FBI began discreet investigations. Jared was moved to an undisclosed location. Emily stopped returning calls. Something had changed. On October 10th, exactly 22 years after the date in Emily's drawing, a new envelope arrived at Forest Grove High School. It was addressed simply to those who still listen. Inside was a USB drive. It contained 1 video. Shot in dim light, the footage was grainy and flickering. A camera, possibly mounted on a wall, showed a clearing surrounded by trees. In the center, 9 figures in ceremonial robes, hooded, silent. At their feet, stones, painted in red, circles within circles. One figure stepped forward and removed their hood. It was a woman, older, thin, pale, Emily Tran. She looked directly into the camera. "The forest remembers," she said, "but it does not forgive." The video cut to black. The video was leaked. Within 48 hours, it had over 12 million views. News networks scrambled to confirm its authenticity. The FBI issued no comment. Conspiracy theorists declared the forest order was real. Some believed it was all staged. Others began calling Emily the Hollow Prophet. Forest Grove went into lockdown. Parents withdrew their children. The school canceled all wilderness trips indefinitely. A memorial vigil turned chaotic when a masked figure appeared, holding a replica of the three-eyed symbol. They disappeared before police could reach them. In October's final days, a linguist from UC Berkeley released a paper analyzing the symbols in Emily's sketchbook. She claimed the characters were not nonsense, but a constructed language, recursive, circular, meant to be spoken in low vibration tones. She called it the language of disappearance. According to her, it wasn't just a dialect. It was an invocation, a trigger. She warned that repeated exposure, especially through ritual or chant, could change neural patterns. Not brainwashing, she said, reprogramming, like tuning a frequency. The final line of her report was simple. Some forests don't grow trees, they grow obedience. Late October 2021, Forest Grove was no longer just a grieving town. It had become a symbol, a magnet for true crime junkies, YouTubers, cult hunters, and paranormal researchers. But beneath the chaos, something darker stirred a shift in the silence. Authorities were losing control of the narrative. The video of Emily Tran had fractured everything. It wasn't just her reappearance after 22 years, it was what she said. The forest remembers. But it does not forgive. It sounded like prophecy or threat. But linguist Dr. Samira Okoye believed it was something worse, a command. Dr. Okoye had been studying what she now referred to as the recursion script, the circular language embedded in Emily's sketches and cult carvings. Through months of analysis and cross-referencing phonetic loops, she proposed something radical. This language was not designed for communication. It was designed to override, not minds, realities. In early November, a satellite transmission used by NOAA weather services briefly glitched just milliseconds before returning to normal. The data packet showed a spike in unregistered frequencies pulsing from a section of the Siskiyou forest. The pattern wasn't random. It mirrored the geometric formations found in Emily's sketches, spirals of increasing density. Military analysts were alerted, but before a team could be dispatched, the anomaly ceased. Jared Fields, still under surveillance, was shown the data by a sympathetic agent. He stared at the waveform for minutes, unmoving. Then he whispered, "That's the sound it made," before they took the others. November 6th. A break-in at Forest Grove High shook the town. Nothing was stolen, nothing vandalized, but a circle had been drawn in the auditorium, 12 feet wide, exact, symmetrical. In the center, 27 candles. Only one had been lit. The school went into lockdown. Parents demanded the return of search teams. The governor dispatched a small National Guard unit to the edge of the national forest. But the ground was frozen. Drones failed. Cameras shorted. It was as if the forest had become resistant, rejecting observation. Jared was moved again, but 2 days later he vanished. November 10th. 3 hikers in their 20s entered the Rogue River Siskiyou forest. They posted an Instagram story at the edge of the woods, laughing, wearing retro class of '99 hoodies they claimed to have found online. It was a joke. They never returned. Their phones were recovered near a firewatch tower, all wiped clean, except one video. It was 42 seconds long. The screen flickered as the camera panned across trees until it locked onto a clearing. Figures, 7 of them, robed, silent. They moved in unison. At the front, one woman raised her head, Emily Tran. This time she spoke directly into the lens. "You've all heard it now. The signal is in you." The video ended. Rumors spread of dreams across Forest Grove, Portland, even as far as Eugene. Shared dreams of spirals, circles, masks, and a voice whispering backwards. At first it was dismissed as hysteria, mass suggestion, but doctors noted unusual sleep behavior in children. Patients across 3 counties reported waking with nosebleeds, loss of time, or speaking unfamiliar phrases in sleep. Dr. Okoye warned of linguistic infection. She proposed the forest order had weaponized recursive patterns, not just symbols but ideas. Repeated exposure to their language, their images, created a type of receptive state. "You don't have to believe in the forest," she said. "You just have to listen to it long enough." On November 19th, Sergeant Emily Wells, the officer who first interviewed Jared Fields, went missing. She left no note, no warning. Surveillance footage showed her leaving her apartment at 2:43 a.m., carrying only a flashlight and a recorder. She drove south toward the forest. Her car was found days later. Inside was a tape recorder, still running. On the tape, hours of silence. Then at the 4:13:09 mark, a single phrase whispered over static, "I remember the fire." the same words Emily Tran had written years ago in her sketchbook. Wells was never seen again. As winter crept in, a strange quiet returned to the town. No new videos, no letters, no more vanishings, at least not publicly confirmed. But everyone felt it. People stopped going outside after dark. The woods were avoided even by hunters. Teachers skipped the hallway with the memorial plaque. Something hung in the air, thick and invisible like fog without moisture. A weight behind the eyes, a pressure in the chest. In classrooms, students whispered stories of new drawings found in bathroom stalls, symbols no one could translate, spirals made of names. One stall door bore a message carved deep into the wood. There were 27 candles. Only one needed to be lit. Thanksgiving passed. Then December. Snow fell over a forest grove, blanketing it in quiet. Media attention waned. The videos were taken down. The story receded into conspiracy channels, abandoned subreddits, and late-night AM radio. But those who knew remembered. They remembered the fire. They remembered the mask. They remembered Emily, her voice soft, her eyes empty, her words circling back again and again. The forest remembers. And in that forest, beneath layers of snow and roots and time, something waited. Not dead, not asleep, just listening. December 31st, 2021, New Year's Eve. While the world celebrated Forest Grove held its breath, the town had grown quieter with each passing week, not out of peace but fear. Police patrols increased. Public events were canceled. Children were kept indoors after sunset. Yet no new disappearances were reported, no new videos, no symbols, nothing. It was as if the forest had stopped, or more accurately paused. But those who had been marked by the story, by Jared's words, by Emily's face, by the whispers inside dreams, knew better. Silence wasn't safety, it was preparation. At 11:59 p.m., just seconds before the year turned, something strange happened. Television signals across the Pacific Northwest glitched just for 6 seconds. On some screens static, on others a black and white image. The footage showed the forest at night, windless, still, a circle of robed figures standing around a fire that burned without smoke. And at the center, a single figure standing tall, face uncovered. Emily Tran. Her mouth didn't move, but across every screen, every radio, every live stream, her voice echoed. Oblation is not sacrifice. It is inheritance. Then darkness. By morning it was gone. The footage couldn't be found. DVRs had no record. News outlets dismissed it as a coordinated hack-a-hoax. But hundreds had seen it, thousands even. Enough to spark a new wave of speculation. Forums reignited, debates resumed. Had the forest order survived all this time? Had it grown? A cryptographer on a niche Reddit thread pointed out something terrifying. The last phrase, "Oblation is not sacrifice, it is inheritance," was a palindrome, not in letters but structure. The meaning didn't reverse, it returned, just like the story. 3 weeks later, a package was delivered to a private P.O. box, registered to Dr. Samira Okoye. Inside, a charred notebook bound in twine, pages scorched but mostly intact. The handwriting matched Jared Field's. The title scrawled across the inside cover, "We Were the Fire." It was his journal. A raw, unedited retelling of everything: the forest, the rituals, the commune, the disappearances, the masks, the signal, and the phrase that kept repeating in his mind: the forest remembers. The forest selects. The forest returns. The final pages were nearly unreadable, soaked in what appeared to be ash or rust-colored water. But the very last entry was clear. It read, "Emily told me the truth before I left, before they let me leave. We were never kidnapped. We were never sacrificed. We were chosen. The forest didn't take us. We went willingly. Some of us just forgot, until it was time to remember." As of early 2022, Rogue River Siskiyou remains closed in certain sectors due to ecological destabilization. but no official reason has been released. Satellite imaging shows unusual tree formations in the restricted zone spirals, circles, in some cases clearings that appear and vanish with the seasons. Locals report strange lights at night, faint drumming, and sometimes on windless days a voice carried through the trees soft and low. I remember the fire. Forest Grove High School never reopened that winter. Renovations were halted. The memorial plaque was quietly removed, replaced with a digital board featuring the names of the class of '99, but the candles, they never stayed unlit. Security footage showed them flaring to life always at 3:33 a.m., always one at a time, always 27 in total. If this story has taught us anything, it's that forgetting is not the same as healing, that silence is not safety, that some forests are not simply old, they are patient, and that truth once buried grows roots. Whether you believe Jared Fields or not, whether you think Emily Tran was a prophet or a prisoner, one thing is certain. The class of '99 was never just a mystery. They were a message, and that message is still being written in roots, in whispers, in circles. So if you ever find yourself walking too deep into the woods, and the air suddenly goes still, and the trees seem to lean inward, ask yourself, was it you who found the forest, or did it finally come back for you?